Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Clean Cut EDC. Man, today we are talking about the Pickled Steel Siren. Look at this thing. It is absolutely gorgeous. Such a cool knife, such a cool name also. It's got that beach or that ocean type look to it, and Siren has the connotation of a mermaid. So, yes, this is fantastic, man. This is so cool. Lovely name. They really nailed their Damascus knives. They've got some fantastic budget Damascus knives, and it's not that Pakistani Damascus. It's not that crap Damascus, right? It's solid, good steel Damascus. We also have some other review that I did a couple of weeks ago. The Darmadillo. Look at that thing, man. That is ridiculous. So cool. So they actually have a few options. I'll just show you guys right now. Right, so all of those knives were from Pickled Steel, and man, are they gorgeous. Now here, with this Siren, we actually also get a very nice looped sheath, and with this beautiful little ocean stone, or this, what you call that, aqua colored stone, which just fits very nicely with the knife itself. So it's custom sheath, handmade, very nice. And then we actually also get a microfiber cloth. So you do get some extras when you buy the Siren. Now the Siren itself, I think it comes in at 1,200 Rand. So not a lot of money for a Damascus knife, not at all. And it's actually quite functional. I'll just show you guys this edge. So it does slice, right? And I'm gonna tell you now why that is super impressive. Wow, like butter. Absolute butter. Look at that, man. That is insane. It's sharpened on a whetstone. They take care to sharpen all of their knives on a whetstone, and Pickled Steel knives have always came razor cutting sharp out of the box. I've had no problems in that regard at all, or actually in any regard. But yeah, so with this knife, right, it's got a 67 layers of HCR Damascus with mild steel. So the core is going to be HCR, which is actually a functional knife steel and quite rust resistant. And then we've got this sort of a polished look to the Damascus, but it's also hammered. It's got a hammered effect on the blade. And that is terrific, people. The fact that this hammered effect doesn't affect the slicing ability is just crazy to me. I for sure thought, yo, no, that's going to definitely affect its functionality, but it actually doesn't. The edge is razor sharp, and it's super slicey, as you guys have seen just now. Now with this blade style, we've got it's almost a spear point, but it's, I'd say it's a modified standard blade shape. It's not quite a drop point, but it's a modified standard blade shape. Yes, and actually very thick in stock. So a 3mm blade stock thickness tapers down very nicely, and it's got a full flat grind, or flat grind, so just a flat grind behind the edge. Super nice, highly functional. Love it. Okay, let's talk about the deployment, right? Because this thing is lightning to deploy. So we've got our blood groove, or it's called a blood groove. So it keeps the moisture off the scales, or that's its original intended purpose. But it's also got a opening, a flicking method for a flicking opening methods, right? For your thumb flicking, which is okay. I'd say it's not the best for your thumb, especially if you've got larger hands, but you can, if you get it right, get it right in there, you can definitely use your thumb to open it, but it's not the most comfortable, honestly. Reverse flick, however, is where it's at. It's very easy to get your finger in there and just launch this knife open. So with the reverse flick, you've got no problems. On this knife, thumb flick, it's going to be a bit more difficult. And then flipper tab, super functional. The flipper tab, however, it doesn't have jumping on the flipper tab, but as you guys can see, there's a little bit of just a contoured, shaped out section, which just catches your finger very nicely and makes it a very functional flipper tab. I didn't slip on this. I think I haven't slipped on this once, so just a super nice flipper tab. You guys can see the core there, so it's a core style Damascus, and there we've got our little stop pin, which is super functional. This blade actually runs on some bearings, which leads to that fantastic action we see there. And yes, this leads us into the Bolster, which is an engraved brushed stainless steel bolster. And this engraving is what I really enjoy about this knife, right? Because these bolsters can pick up scratches quite easily, and it can definitely affect the look of the knife. But with the engraving, that will sort of hide the scratches to some extent and keep your knife looking pristine for longer, which is great, especially with this type of knife, which is going to be perhaps a little bit more on the display stand than in the pocket, right? Now, this is what I really like, and this is where I feel, man, Pickled Steel knows how to pick OEMs, they know how to adjust OEMs. This is where it's at, right? We've got full stainless steel liners. It's not skeletonized, so they didn't make an effort to drop the weight, because, you know, for that once in a while carry, it's not really going to bother you. If it was an EDC knife, it's still not a heavy knife at all, right? We'll do the weight. Let's check the weight while we are on the topic. Let's see what we've got. And up the weight. 117. Perfectly synced. So 116 grams, which is, it's not super heavy. Let's check that in ounces for the Americans. There we go. So 4.1 ounces. So not the heaviest, but it's definitely not a super light knife for sure, right? My everyday carry is about 120 grams, so that's okay for me. For my personal preference, it's fine. But some people don't go over 100 grams, so for them, you know, this is not going to be an EDC weight. However, so I was at the liners. The liners is actually cut out and sort of jumped all across the backside, right? Now with these scales, it's actually super slippery. So you do want some grip somewhere, and with how this is carved out and molded out, these stainless steel liners, and with this backspacer, you actually have a lot of grip at the back of the knife. So this is not going to slip out of your hand, and that was very wise, right? Because this is how they kept that fresh, smooth, distinguished look on the scales, but still made it functional and grippy enough to be used, right? And I think that's terrific, man. That is really cool. So well done on that. However, now this is where I would say is an area they can improve on. This backspacer, being black, it does sort of disappear, right? You don't notice it as much. But if you look at it from this side, it seems a bit out of place. I would much prefer standoffs, or a stainless steel standoffs, or a stainless steel backspacer, but then they will have to drop the weight somewhere. So I would say some standoffs will look probably better. And with the jumping on the liners, you will still have enough grip, right? You will, however, then lose your very functional lanyard hole. But, you know, I don't know, if you're a lanyard guy, then that's probably going to matter to you. I think a lanyard with like a ocean shell will look freaking cool on this knife. So the scales actually is abalone, and is that how you even say it, abalone? And it's covered with resin, so it's super durable. Now the pivot is a T8, and the scales, or the hardware, the body screws, is T6, as well as the pocket clip. Alright, so the pocket clip itself is, to me, is definitely a highlight. Most of the Pickled Steel Damascus range does not actually include a pocket clip, but the Armadillo and the Siren does. So, as well as the Siren's older brother, the Gator, right, which is has got wooden scales. But I can see in the design, you know, they wanted this to be a super versatile knife. A knife that is functional with all the added effects for functionality, super slicey, right? Highly functional blade, highly functional scales. Beautiful, as in perfect for the display case as well, perfect for fancy functions as well. And then they wanted to give you the option of actually carrying this in your pocket or in the sheath, right? So they intended this to be the display type knife usable for your cutting tasks, which is pretty cool. Definitely love these scales, and it's a conversation starter. It's definitely a you know, a display aspect. It's super cool, and having this at a fancy function, you know, it's something to talk about. People want to know, wow, that is a awesome looking knife, right? And then you can start your conversation, your 3-hour conversation on knives, which is actually why you went, because we all just want to talk knives all the time, right? Let's do some size comparisons before we end off this video. Here it is against one of probably my most beautiful knives in my collection, the Pickled Steel Gladius, up against the Spyderco Para 3. So if you know the Para 3, you know it's not the largest knife in the world. And this guy is about 17.5 centimeters, so not a very big knife, right? Or long knife, I'd say. And up against our Delica, let's see what we get there. So very similar in size to the Spyderco Delica, very similar. Still maybe a tad smaller, about 0.5 centimeter smaller. And then just for giggles, let's do our PM2. Yes, here we go. So as you can see, PM2 is a lot bigger than our Siren. Okay, the Siren, guys. What I like about this is the thickness of the scales. Maybe that would bother a few people, but for me, it just fills my hand out so nicely. So I really enjoy that aspect of the Siren. You don't have a choke up option, but you get enough grip actually with this backspacer, though. I have to agree, the backspacer is highly functional. So you don't really need to choke up on this knife. We don't have jumping at the top, which is fine because it's not that type of knife, right? But still highly functional, super slicey, super usable, but beautiful. And that's what you get with the Siren, guys. Can't recommend this knife enough. Honestly, it's just incredible. I would highly recommend this if you are looking at getting a Damascus knife from Pickled Steel. Guys, have a great day, have a knife day, and remember that no knife means no life.